Hello, my name is Corey Ruttercup. I'm the CEO here at the Greater Langley Chamber of Commerce, and thank you for watching another one of our candidate interviews as we gallop towards the April 28th federal election. The Chamber has invited every candidate in Langley's three ridings to participate in these one-on-one interviews to have a chance for them to introduce themselves to the community and to the Chamber and talk about what their priorities would be if they get to represent our community in Ottawa. These videos are all going to be posted on our website at langleychamber.com, on our YouTube channel, and then shared through our communication channels in the lead up to final election day. Today, I'm joined by Kevin Wilkie, who's running in the riding of Cloverdale, Langley City with the Green Party. Kevin, thank you for joining me.
Yeah, thanks so much for having me.
Well, why don't we dive in? Did you want to share a little bit about your background, who you are, and kind of what made you want to jump into the campaign this year?
For sure. And I'll be honest, I'm not a typical politician. Maybe every politician says that, but I would say I'm not. I'm an expecting dad, first time baby on the way, so very excited about that. Uh,
Congratulations.
yeah, thank you. A dog owner and someone that believes that politics should be more about the people and not the parties. Right now we're just trying to figure out. For me and my wife is trying to figure out which will be more chaotic, raising a baby or keeping the dog from eating another sock. So we're we're on the go here. But anyway, becoming a parent though has made everything feel a lot more real. I'm thinking about the kind of future we're building for my kid, for your kids, for the community. Clean air, clean water, affordable housing, and a government that actually listens. And that's kind of what brought me into this race, if I'm being honest. I didn't join the Green Party to toe the line. I joined because they kind of align with my values. I plan to be, someone who's independent voice in Parliament. And honestly, if elected, I want to act as that swing vote. Do the Greens have a chance of winning the overall populace? Probably not. But you know what? We can be someone who can tip the balance and bring real leverage back to the riding, especially for Cloverdale and Langley City. So that's what I'm really trying to encourage. And again, that means working across party lines, standing up for what our community actually needs, and making sure that we don't get treated like an afterthought, like we typically have in the past. Our vision as the party is kind of to build that sustainable and just Canada. We want to tackle the climate crisis, of course, with bold action, but that means creating a green economy with good jobs, clean industries, social justice, and equity for all the Canadians, and really strengthen that democracy. Again, I'm here to listen and learn. This is new to me, just like for some others, and just to bring the power back, not for the riding, but for the actual people who live in it.
Well, I appreciate that. Why don't we I'm gonna pick up on kind of what you'd mentioned there about raising a family and kind of and getting ahead there. And I don't need to tell you about the pressure that many
Mhm.
face in Cloverdale, Langley City around the rising cost of living from our
Right.
members in the business community. The cost of running a business, of keeping the doors open is top of mind, and obviously for their workers and families in the riding. Seems to be a very top issue, top of mind. What would you bring, or what would your voice add in Ottawa to help lower the cost of living? What's the Green Party's position on how we address helping local families get ahead?
For sure. Families and small businesses, they're being squeezed on every side. I've had the chance to meet a lot of them, not just during this campaign, but in my own work. Getting a chance to meet with small businesses, large businesses, medium businesses, and figuring out all of those costs are just becoming more and more prohibitive. Just to operate on a very thin margin is difficult. We see these rising rents, groceries, childcare, like again, overall operating costs. And for us, the Green Party believes in that real practical solution to bring these costs down. For families, we want to expand public health, and to include pharma care, dental care. Those are things that are rights that should be included, that we shouldn't have to fight for and feel like it's a challenge to get. Again, we want to reduce housing costs through non-market housing, especially deliver a guaranteed livable income. Those are things that help people get that stable foundation where they can operate on a day-to-day basis and not feel like they're being, as I said, squeezed on all sides. And for businesses specifically, we want to offer tax relief, green transition support, and a protection from rising commercial rents. These things are getting crazy out of hand. I have a friend of mine who owns a small business in Cloverdale. He's been there for 25 years, and the rent has gone through the roof to where he has to move somewhere else. and all that goodwill that he acquired over the years is gone, right? And that's not the kind of thing that we want to be seeing long term. So getting financing more accessible for businesses to grow and adapt is important. So big picture for this one, we need to fix the broken system behind rising costs, things like corporate consolidation, climate shocks, housing speculation, and we need to support the local economies, sustainable industries, and a stronger community in how we make life more affordable and more secure for everyone.
Great. Well, thank you for that. I want to pivot to just with where you're going to be representing or trying to represent in Cloverdale, Langley City. We know from our surveys the issue of retail crime, of public safety is an issue for sure amongst both families and businesses who see it every day when they try to open their doors in the morning. Um,
Yeah.
what is the Greens Party's position on how we handle things like repeat offenders and enforcement and also the broader social issues that seem to be contributing to this challenge that we can't seem to get our hand around, no matter everyone kind of agreeing that it's a challenge?
Yeah, that's a great question. And like, listen, we all want safe, thriving communities. I've had a chance actually in my time to volunteer in a variety of different prisons and institutions, just getting to know the guys and kind of how they got to that point. And say what you will about crime and the people who committed them, but they're still people, and sometimes it comes from a deeper set of history that we don't really know about. And again, I'm not trying to justify it, but what I'm trying to say is, we need to start addressing kind of, what is that root cause? Where is that coming from? People don't grow up as a little kid wanting to become criminals. That's not what they do, right? So again, so we want to tackle the reasons for why they fell through the cracks in the first place, right? That means in serious investment in mental health, addiction treatment, housing, especially for the young, and income support. People are desperate, and so they do crazy things when they're desperate, right? We want to treat addiction as a health issue, not a criminal one, and make it easier for people to get help before they end up in that cycle of crime and jail, right? So at the same time, we need community-based safety programs, better coordination with police and social services, targeted support for businesses. And, those are the ones who, they are the backbone of our community. We don't want them feeling like you said, on any given day, they're going to wake up and they're going to find that their business has been smashed in when they get to work, right? So, and then again, you mentioned about repeat offenders. We support smart justice, risk-based bail reform, restorative justice for nonviolent crimes, and real reintegration programs, giving them the support to say, hey, you don't have to live that life. There is another way forward, kind of thing. The goal is accountability, but it's also, more importantly, healing and prevention. That's really what we're trying to advocate.
Thanks for that. And we're going to move on as we're galloping through our time here. We're going to jump from different topic to topic here. And you mentioned obviously housing and a lack of housing or precarious housing, I'm sure contributes to some of that public safety issue that we were talking about there. On the housing front, I mean, you're expecting to be building a young family there. I mean,
Yes.
what is your perspective, and where does the federal government need to step in to address the issue of around housing affordability? Obviously, we know that contributes to the cost of living, that contributes to the challenge for employers finding workers if everyone has to live further and further afield, and what does that mean for finding people to work in your community? What's your and the Green Party's perspective on what the federal government's role is in addressing housing affordability that we seem to have been talking for a generation about and can't seem to crack that nut?
It does seem like we've been talking about this forever, hey? But no, it's for sure, it's a reality. It's a crisis. I mean, I don't need to say it as a this bold headline. We all know it's there, right? And it is hitting communities like Langley and Cloverdale City especially hard. I've had a chance to chat with a lot of different business owners in the past, again, through my own work, mostly just kind of, chatting a little bit. And a lot of them are relying on things like, temporary workers, where they're going to third-party agencies and they're having to look for workers and sometimes pay $20,000, $30,000 per worker, and not always getting something that they really really are expecting. And sometimes it's a scam, sometimes the worker doesn't work out, and that's money that they're losing, right? But when it comes back to housing, for us, we really want to invest in non-market housing, co-ops, nonprofits, public builds, things that we've seen more in the 70s than we've seen in the last few decades. I mean, it's something that doesn't really get promoted and pushed as much nowadays. We want to create those permanent, affordable homes that are built at affordable costs. Because I know the builders are often saying, hey, well, we can't afford given the materials. We need to help with subsidies for that. We need to help builders be able to say, okay, we want to be part of this movement, and not just about profit margins, right? So again, we want to crack down on speculation, reform zoning to allow gentle density, and you also use federal land for public good. But again, with growth, there has to be a match in infrastructure growth as well. I mean, you can't just put buildings up and hope things just kind of magically appear. It's just not going to happen, right? So again, we are facing a massive deficit already in our municipalities around Canada, not just here, but we got old water systems, overloaded roads, growing pressure on healthcare and transit. Obviously, you probably all know all too well the hospitals in Langley. 12-hour wait times, like that's crazy in my opinion. So we need to provide stable long-term infrastructure and things that are sustainable and climate resilient. That's the biggest thing for us. Is it doesn't help to build something and in 5 years we're having to rebuild it. So those are the types of kind of avenues that we want to pursue when it comes to kind of helping with the housing and infrastructure crisis.
Great. We're up against the clock on our time here. You mentioned I wanted to give you a chance to talk about or make some comment because you've woven into a few of your comments and responses there around the climate crisis and wanting to address that with bold action. I know obviously one policy that was in the headlines and then was around the carbon tax. But what is the Green Party's perspective on how do we as a country address the climate challenge and what do you want to be advocating for more action on?
Yeah, as I mentioned in my intro, we are kind of given our own voice to kind of say, hey, what is important to you, right? And, you don't have to toe the party line kind of thing, right? And for me, I've always believed in the value of research and development and innovation. I'm kind of getting tired of, governments, frankly, pushing billions of dollars of subsidies to fossil fuels and other energy companies that are not sustainable. The reality is, with some estimates say anywhere from 100 to 150 years, our global reserves will either be gone in oil, either be gone or so cost prohibitive to mine to drill that, it'll be, there's no way back, right? So 100, 150 years, that's a couple lifetimes. That's not very far away in the grand scheme of things. I want to start putting money into innovation that actually can help long term. Things like hydro, solar, fusion reaction, which is very cool technology this time recently. So that's what I believe is kind of the future. And I think the minute people start getting on board, they'll realize, hey, it's not just me who's living, it's our future kids, our grandkids, and our great grandkids who's going to suffer from a lack of preparation. So that's what I'd really like to advocate moving forward.
Perfect. Well, hey, I really appreciate you taking the time to join me for this discussion and share some of your perspectives. Any final words for voters in Cloverdale, Langley City as we kind of head into the last week of the campaign here?
Yeah, it's been a great ride. I've really appreciated kind of meeting all the people along the way, the different speaking engagements. Honestly, whether you vote for me or anyone else, I can say yes, just go out and vote. That's great. But I think more importantly, I want you to realize that there's not a two-party race like, people are often trying to say. I encourage you not just to vote for who your parents vote for or who your wife or husband or partner or whoever votes for, vote with your heart. If you feel there's something that calls you, that you feel is important in the world, use that as your way. It's the only thing that we have in this country, I find sometimes, where it can truly be yours if you want it to be. So that's what I encourage, is just, if you feel compelled to vote for something or someone, do that because you believe in it, not because someone's telling you to. So I really do appreciate, Corey, the time. Thank you so much.
Well, yeah, thanks a lot. I appreciate you doing this. Make sure everyone, final voting day is April 28th, so make sure that's on your calendar. Kevin, best of luck with the new little one on the way, and all the best for the
Thank
campaign.
you. Okay, thank you so much, Corey. You have a great week. Take care.